Hello, my monstrosities. Hello once again. Today I bring to you a bit of a rant. I did the thing where I wanted to put out the more passionate version of this first in my own recording, not out. Um, so that's recorded. And if you really want to hear like passionate ranting, let me know, and then maybe I'll make it like a. I'd throw those in members because it's like you don't really need to hear me like. Not everybody needs to hear me bitching like that passionately. Uh, but some people do also find it cathartic that somebody else feels the same way as them. So, let me know if that's something to do. But this is the more tame version of the video because for two reasons, actually. I'm going to do the same disclaimer I did in that. So if I do put it up, I'm sorry you'll hear in this again. What's going to happen is I'm going to say things and everybody's going to be nice and respectful in the comment section. Uh, Too often lately, people have found that they disagree with me on something, and I guess not too many people realize you can just say you disagree and put your counterpoint without calling the other person a name or making a jab or not realizing that you're making a jab. You could just say, I disagree, here's the reason. You don't have to say, I dislike this video. I dislike this type of video. I dislike what you did here. You're being unrealistic. You are whining too much. Like, you could just say your point, and sometimes you have a valid point. So that's why I want to thank people like Big Nick Energy is probably the best example recently. I shouldn't say the best. There was actually a few other awesome videos that were a while back that have commented lately on just like if you have an opposing point, you can just say it. You don't have to add any flavor. You can just say the opposing point and we can all have a nice day. So that's why I also see that some people are just surprised that I'm still a person, okay? You are throwing words at another person. So when I respond with the same energy you give me, I don't know why there's a surprise. Um, but for this one and moving forward, I'm going to try to just, if you are, I feel your comment is being too snarky over the topic, it's just going out. I usually try to keep them up if, somebody has the same point and, let me know if I'm wrong, right? Or whatever. But if you are just throwing off the vibes, not doing it with you today. So, with that speech out the way, I just want to talk about the fact that somebody else has said what my key point all the time is. Thank you, John Lennon, once again for your service, I guess. Art of War 40K. John Lennon said something in this live stream that is really all I try to achieve and give feedback towards. If something like Necrons can have this much attention, this much care across still changes here and something like this, that's all I'm asking for. Something like my Tyranids as my main army, Necrons is my secondary at the moment. Um, when I say things about Tyranids, it's not to make okay units busted. It's that I see where they can have better internal and external balance. Going to something like Necrons, I want all of us to take a minute. And before we get to typing, let's think about it. Are we truly upset that Necrons have this care? Or is it the fact that not everybody has this care? For me, my answer is that I'm mad that not everybody has this care. If I didn't make that clear, that's why I get upset. Yeah, you also go, but you play Necron, so like, do you really matter here? But that's my entire thing. That's my spiel as to why I go, yeah, it makes no sense that warriors are 25 points per model and then Scorepeg destroyers are 90 points, 30 points per model. when the balance is like drastically different, and then for 150 points on a unit there, I can do that 150 points somewhere else. Take one of this. Let's just go to Tyranid so I can show what I mean, right? Now you go, Tyrannus just got away with like a heist. How could you have anything to possibly say about this? Yes, I do like that it's only green. Not even going to lie to you, right? But then I did come down off some highs and I really thought about it, right? First, the Norn assimilator, I was in the camp, I was defending GW that no, just because you name it the assimilator doesn't mean it needs to go in assimilation swarm. It's an assassin. Assimilation swarm is all about eating and regenerating. It doesn't have to do that. Fine, fuck it. Alpha gives me 15 points off too. But that took over a year. And that's to the same Necron's point. It's like, why did the Silent King take forever to finally have his keyword? And then that's invalidated like 2 months after because there's just a significant better place to play him, right? For Tyranids, yeah, I'm glad that the Trigon has gone down in points accordingly to the fact that there's no more 3-inch deep strike. But while I was trying to tell people to take the 3-inch deep strike monster at 170, now you look at it and go, well, do I need a 6-inch deep strike that I can't charge from? Like that's 3 additional inches, but do I need that out of my Trigon? And if that's the line where you think about that, and honestly, I thought it that same way for an hour or two with everybody else. I'm like, well, shit, I kind of brought it for the deep strike, and now I want to ask everybody, right? What I mean by points equivalency. It is 150 points. And then when I talk about units that I find to be entertaining and what the fuck? Why did that do that? That was weird. What I find to be entertaining and like other detachments and try to give a new leash on life. Somebody's there like, hey, you suck. That's stupid. And I'm just like, hey, I don't know, man. I'm just trying to help you play with your toys. And then on the flip side, when I say something like, comparatively, the melee warriors aren't nearly as good as the competition. They don't have the mobility, they don't have the durability, and they really don't have the damage equivalency of things like it. Somebody's like, no, you're just whining because you don't know how to play with a good unit. And it's like, well, I don't want to have to put so much into making the unit work. And especially, let's look at the points now, right? Because this is my favorite thing where people, when I try to highlight what you could do with other units for equivalent points or around the same amount of points. For 150 points for 6 models, I could get 6 Tyranid Warriors that are T5, 4 up save, 3 wounds. And that's before putting on a Winged Tyranid Prime for another 65 to give them sustained, right? That is just, at most, they will do 6, what is it, 36 damage? At most, if everything goes right for them. And I've already have a whole video going through that, so I'm not going to go through all the things again, right? But they are 6-inch move, model, unit, yada yada yada. 36 attacks for 150 points. Now, I could have a Trigon for 150 and take out the need to try to tuck tail with Tyranid Warriors so that I can get the 6 inches out to do something. And then if they fail the charge, it's kind of fucked. Or the Toxicrene, which you go, I'm not taking the Toxicrene for 150. I go, this is something that I've been reevaluating as maybe a really good distraction Carnifex. And to which, with all of the Terminator situation going on, maybe I do want something that just wounds that wounds infantry on twos and just gets some saves through while still having a ranged weapon. Yes, I know that the terrain and the fact that it can get shot from every angle is a big downside. I'm aware. But I have been considering the fact that it is still a T11 monster with 14 wounds, so it's not like you can just throw any random gun like you can at my warriors and then I have to start taking saves. Like, you do have to still probably get a weapon that can wound it on fours for me to actually care about that. So I've been considering that lately. But ones that I've definitely been considering a lot and kind of fell in love with is Von Ryan's Leapers. Three models, less AP, no twin linked or rerolls, and it doesn't get to attach to a winged Tyranid Prime for sustained. But what I found is that they have a 10-inch move, 5, 4, 3, just like the Warriors. They have a 6-up invuln, they have infiltrate, they have stealth. So they have heroic intervention for free. And that gives me kind of what I find you need to have to do with Warriors, and especially Warriors just took another nerf with the Armor of Contempt game-wide nerf, into which I liked them in Synaptic Nexus because Armor of Contempt with Reinforced Hive Node and not too many people expect it, and now they're a little bit more, but now they don't have that either. So I find that Von Ryan Sleepers do the job I kind of need by putting enough attacks through, get a model or two down, and they still have fights first. So when the crackback happens to them, not only did they fight first, so they probably did enough damage to let less damage come into them. Then if they are still engaged in combat and your opponent doesn't have fallback in charge, it's fights first again. So like, you just have nice things, and they have heroic intervention. So if that's something I just need to block something else, it's fights first there. I don't really need to babysit my Von Ryan's Leapers, and that's what I've come to like about them. And it's interesting how saying that one damage weapons to one damage weapons just try to fulfill the same role, and that gets a lot of flack. Or even now, we're looking at Tyrant Guard coming down to 160 for 6. One of my biggest gripes is that it was 170, which was either Maliceptor or 3-inch Deep Strike Trigon points for 6, you know, fairly bulky models, like relatively bulky compared to what we have in the detachment. For like, where we're at now, for 10 more points, I can have a Tyrant Guard block over the Warriors, and they will probably survive, more likely to get where I need them to go. Yeah, they have different attachments. They don't have rerolls to hit. They can't have twin linked. But it's just one of those things like, I've been really considering. And also, thinking about it, Big Nick Energy, we were having that conversation before these points about looking at Tyrant Guard a little bit more intensively now for all the things. So when I say that things could be better, it's not to necessarily make it so that the Tyranids are just getting away with murder and that I don't like a decent unit. Is that, I don't know, sometimes there's room for improvement, even if it's okay. The same way that you may give me feedback on these videos and then I take that and try to incorporate that into another video. You might have liked this video, thought it was okay, but you can still tell me something that's decent about it. A lot of people like to do the traditional, hey, here's a stat block at you that I'm expressly talking about that's under perfect conditions. If everything goes well, yes, my 215 point unit made its charge, got all 6 models into combat, everybody's in engagement range, and they do the damage that they can do. But, on the other hand, I'm starting to look at Von Ryan's Leapers with stealth and an invuln save and 10-inch movement and go, they kind of do what I need for the role. For most things, they don't get buffs in Warrior Bioform Onslaught, and they aren't Synapse, so it's not like they can carry that out for things like Synaptic Nexus, but you can give them sustains the same way in Invasion Fleet and give them a 5 Feel No Pain on top of their Stealth and Invuln. I just like them now. So I try to put that up. And then also I try to think about other uses or just to the same care as this. Whoops. That's right. I didn't do the thing that I did on the last one where I had it as a different tab. But, going back to Necrons, it's just there's several things that I look at here and I go, man, we kind of just don't use it and it's kind of not worth, and sometimes you have to wonder if it's worth it. I remember making an aside comment about how I don't like that it's already a little over a tenth for a Hive Tyrant to make my army work. It's like, yeah, lethals within 6 inches are cool, and assault is cool, but how badly do I need it outside of maybe one turn? My only gun in the army to take out infantry is the Exocrine. And why do I say my only gun? It's the only one that's 36 inches. So when having this conversation with other people that don't necessarily play Tyranid or don't like versing Tyranid, that's when it's like, yeah, I get it. The Exocrine is annoying, and I'm not trying to keep it at 135 points. If something else goes down, that way I can just have an Exocrine not be as needed, that's perfectly fine. But for 36 inches range, it is 933 D6 plus 3 blast. And then you also have the blast issue, which is a two-sided sword, where sometimes it helps in the fact that, yeah, you are cutting down more infantry because it's blast, or, whatever unit is 5 plus models, right? But at the same time, you can't use big guns never tire, but for that, for the Maleceptor, and I mean, probably not for the rupture effects. You can for the rupture effects, but I don't know it's going to bail you out, right? So, like, once they get tagged any type of way, or if anything gets in combat with them, you just can't use your blast gun. So that's where it's a very interesting debacle as to why, yes, I understand the Exocrine is annoying for other people, but comparatively, you tell me what other gun I'm supposed to use for that distance. Zoe's are 100 points for 3. That is 3d3 blast, 7-2 d3. T5, 4 up or die, 3 wounds. 4s are okay, that's a 50% chance to not take damage, right? Can't make it better in any real way. The second you attach it to a Neurotyrant, you lose the ability to bring a Venom Tropes to make them stealth. So it's just things like that I mean, and I'm not going to go too deep on those because save those for videos and before everybody tries to write an essay on each one of those. It's just that they're still 24 inches out, so you have to put them in the danger zone when comparatively I could bring Exocrine and Tyrannofex and cover both of the profiles of a 305 point unit. That's 6 Zoes and a Neuro Tyrant. I could cover both profiles for close to 100 points less. I actually take that back. Close to, what, 45 points less? Alright, so, that's where it goes, you know, like, I get it. Actually, 10, yeah, 45 points less. Can I do math? I can't do math. Anyway, the point is, let's see, Zoe's 10 points more than a Tyrannofex. This is 30 more. So, yeah, it comes out in the wash. But the point is that I can have an Exocrine and Tyrannofex instead of one unit that shoots at 24 inches. As much as I love them, that's where it is. But that's what I mean. Like, there's tons of things here that just don't get used. And some of the things that are used because it's the best we have versus it actually being good, right? It is the best melee unit we have, quote unquote. But at the same time, I've been trying to convince people, hey, the Haruspex is 125 points. It is still T11. The same argument for the Toxicrene, it is still T11. It even has a ranged attack. It's not the best thing, but it is still a ranged attack so that if I fail a charge or am out in the open for a little bit too long, it's not the end of the world immediately. you still would have to dedicate a weapon that you didn't shoot my Tyrannifex or Exocrine with. So that's where I try to go with Tyranid, because this is the faction that I know the most of, because it's the faction, that's I'm into. Not to say I am a resounding book of knowledge on everything about Tyranid. It's just that out of the factions, if you were to give me a quiz, I'm more likely to pass it because it's on Tyranid versus it being on Space Marines or something, right? So I just want everybody to have the same care. That's what it is, more so than, oh, I want my melee warriors to do 2, 3 damage attack. That's not quite balanced either. There just should be more options for the role. My Screamer Killer's 145 points still, and people aren't bringing it, even though I do find it fun that sometimes you will see a list that has a Higher Specs or a Screamer Killer or something that somebody's finally been brave enough to try, but most people will go for efficiency and go, huh, that was fun, but I could do that with a Neurolictor for less points in a different way, right? So that's the point on that one. Like, it's interesting. And then you go to something like, where were we? Drukari, 18, page 18. And I really wonder what happened here. This shit is personal. That shit was personal. Not only did you nerf Drukari, who haven't been doing anything since the last update, right? Like, they've just been chilling. They haven't been topping everything like they were for a little bit. They've been very fucking tame. You can't even take Grotesque in Yannari. Not too many of them had even experimented with the Void Raven Bomber. Why did you do this to both Drukari and Ildari? This is don't make it too obvious, but what the fuck is this? Why is 5 models of Scourges 130 points and 10 is 180? And then meanwhile, you have a detachment, an army that, yeah, it's getting a codex coming up, so you probably don't want to touch too many things, but technically, because you nerf Drukari randomly as fuck, Yannari gets nerfed too. So while there's nothing on here, technically they got red there too. It's just very odd how that goes. And for like further examples, not even just points wise, when I just say that things can be changed, that means things can be changed here too. Necrons just got Starshot Arsenal. And again, after calming down, and yes, I know it is one of my armies, but I did really think about it. I was like, if everybody just had, again, I'll make another. Hey, shout out Art of War. You all say good things at times. Well, that sounded fuck. You all say good things. Um, Jack said it on a stream, and I think I put this to video, where it's just like, this is a lore accurate War in Heaven detachment for Necrons, and I feel like more armies should have at least one of those. I like the changes to Assimilation Swarm because I feel like with some of the things I'm thinking about and kind of cooking, it might be our lore accurate. Hold on, wait a fucking minute. That's kind of scary. Detachment. It just might be. And I'm perplexed that they didn't change anything for the Warriors when they just released Warrior Bioform Onslaught. Like, that was an easy slam dunk on how to change them. Necron still got something into which they realized, yeah, Annihilation Legion is dog water, and Hypercrypt Legion has been still having everybody in a chokehold out of all of the detachments, so it has to get changed. So it gets another nerf, and it gets a compensation buff over here that realistically, this applies to a unit that once again is going into Starshatter Arsenal. So it's a little too late on this, probably on this too, but even more so thinking about it, the meta is going to a different direction in which there is a lot of, if the strength is higher than the toughness, -1 to wound, and yada yada yada. So it looks like while we're all scared of Starshatter Arsenal right now, and kind of perplexed on how we got there. At the same time, I think that there's room for it to actually just be okay. I think there is room for it to just be okay. Like some of the vehicles are still not that durable. Don't get me wrong, it does make no sense that there is still what's it called? Unyielding forms for it, where you get the transhuman that we were just talking about of, strength, toughness, -1 to wound, right? It is kind of weird that you gave that to a vehicle, but then again, that's what I mean. You gave those to vehicles in both Necrons and in the Custodes one, the Solar Spearhead, but for Death Guard, you need a Mephitic Blight Hauler on Death Guard Infantry, and for Tyranids, it's only on Tyranid Warriors, and you need Endless Multitude units to be by it. So it's kind of odd what that direction is. I'm glad that things like Chaos Knights finally have a detachment rule, or sorry, an army rule, but I am also scared at the same time where I go, wait, hold on, that is a Neurolictor plus Death Leaper for vehicles, and then something like the Trader's Mark and Aura of Terror means that it's just like more Battle Shock tests. Like this one is a sticky and a Battle Shock test within 12. Fuck. Um, at -1, that's that's kind of wild. Sorry, not a Battle Shock test. This is the Battle Shock test. This is -1 to Battle Shock test. But I'm like, that's kind of wild. It only took a year to do it. And then, going to one that I have zero clue about what's going to happen here. GSC. I've heard both that this is horrible and that this is great. I don't know. But what I do know is I feel for GSC how you have bought a $60 book and that a good portion of your pages don't look anywhere close to what the rules are. That irks me. That irks me. Even as a non-GSC player, it is ridiculous to me that any of the shit went to print and you had to pay $60 to see it, and now it doesn't even look reminiscent of it. You now still have to pull up like the app for your rules to figure out what the fuck is going on with GSC, even though you bought a book. That is things that annoy me, and what I try to talk about that I wish everything had that level of care. Again, I only kind of know Tyranid, so that's why I put out videos. It's just like, if you look comparatively across other places and what we have, this could be different, cheaper, better, whatever. You look at something like, let's look at another previously 75-point unit. And again, when I say something can be better, that doesn't mean that it can't be better and take a price point increase, right? I just think it could be better. Looking at Chaos Demons, yeah, they also have detachments and things coming out for each of the Chaos Gods, cool. But Screamers, people were already taking Screamers. Now, the options are limited in Chaos Demons, and this isn't to say that, hey, you can't buff things that are already being taken that happened to us with the Exocrine. Because again, that's our one gun. Our one real gun. Screamers, they went from hitting on 4s to 3s, and they get anti-monster 4-up, anti-vehicle 4-up for 85 points, if I remember correctly. Yeah. You're telling me that isn't just pretty darn good now? You just throw 85 points at kind of anything, because it still is 622, 3 attacks each model. That's still just a nice profile to get through kind of everything now. You get to just chip at shit. That's nice. But at the same time, I still wonder what happened with the battle line and why it all needs to hover around 100 points. And you go, but Monster, obviously it needs to hover around 100 points, because if they don't, then you bring a big demon or two. And that wasn't even in the original clause. It kind of happened, but before then, it's just like, man, why am I paying 120 point for bloodletters? How badly do I need this battle line? That's why you saw 7 greater demon lists pop out so frequently, because you gotta go, damn, who needs it? And that's what I try to stress about something like when I highlight other things to play and something like Tyranid again. I don't know why I haven't memorized 32 by now. I don't know why I keep checking. But, for Crusher Stampede, I've been trying to say Crusher Stampede is actually pretty solid. You realize you don't need so many models to play the game. Take this with like a large pinch of salt. Like, listen, but don't just go off being like, oh, Monster said I should be good with 8 lictors, right? Like, hold on, no. I just mean the fact that not all of your units will be doing something at the same time. And if sometimes it's a monster that can go through a wall, it's a monster that can go through a wall and score you some points, right? Things like that. So, I try to highlight, damn, you don't need 3 lictors every list to try to score points. Some things just will do the shit for you because you're probably not putting everything on the line and saying go for it, right? That's what I'm like trying to aim towards in the fact of, yeah, I highlight things just to give a different perspective. It's not to say that I absolutely hate warriors. Previously, I definitely was like, yeah, this is a nice niche tech piece and synaptic nexus that not many people expect. Now they've been nerfed twice over. Some reason they didn't get a 3-up save. For some reason, the ranged warriors didn't go from 4 to 3 on the ballistic skill. That was easy dunk on how to print money with your new detachment, GW, and that's why I'm confused. Yes, don't get me wrong. I love this. Love this. I said I love this and then thought about it. And take this too. But it is just very odd. Like, well, we've seen what you can do for others. Is there not somebody that can do that for everybody? Like, it is a large company, right? Like, how hard is it to have 30 something people have an in-depth specialist touch on it, and then you bring it back to the team and somebody else goes, hey, that thing you wrote for Necrons might give everybody a problem because the one that you wrote for Thousand Suns, even if they are good at the moment, is kind of fucking dog water, right? Like, that's what I mean. And then even to that point, when I put out a video that's like how I would fix it, I didn't say that's how it needs to be fixed. That is just throwing ideas out to the wall so that sometimes we do get a nice little surprise of the Norn Assimilator becoming Harvester, even though, yeah, it probably should have happened from the jump. Who knows if that was their original intention, but if nobody says it and people say it enough, they probably won't do it. It took them forever to make the Snake's Vanguard invaders, and it was like, why didn't you make the Snake's Vanguard invaders? Like, they should be there. And then after people go, yeah, that should be happening, they finally go, all right, we'll do it. So somebody has to say it. Not saying that I always have to be the one to say it, but that's just what the point is. And this is getting to be a long, repetitive video. But I say all this to say that, I get interesting comments, right? Try not to harp on them too much because you just, you know, go on. But for the people that do take the time to watch these videos, before we have one of the interactions of some of the people that I know were subs, right? You could just say your point, realize what I'm coming from. It's not 50 minutes of whining that I want melee warriors to be amazing. A lot of Tyranids is paying for the sins of ninth, right? It's just that we've seen that they can be good, and I feel like you can meet the middle point and then go from there. If it takes buffing all of this, realizing that you broke the game, and then hiking them all up by points or something like that, fuck it, fine. I'm fine with paying 90 points for 3 warriors if you give them the ability to uh pop dev wounds once per game because they have a Tyranid. I was going to say Tyrannocyte, but I realized that's a thing because it's called a plasma site for the Scorpic destroyers, right? So if there's something like that, I go, all right, cool. I'll eat the 90 or something like that. That's just it is it is there. But comparatively now, I'm still perplexed by the Tyrannocyte being 105. It hasn't gotten a change to let me put actual units in it. Like I can't fit 6 Zoes or 6 warriors and their leader in it. I can't do it. The Harridan and the Hierophant can't mix those either. You can't take anything with fly on a Hierophant, and the Harridan can only take gargoyles. And the Wing Tyranid Prime. So it's just interesting that there are some of those things. Or like even when I go to like, man, the Parasite of Mortrex doesn't need to be 80 points. I threw out a spitball number of 60, and this again, people were respectful for how they came about at this one. But when's the last time you've seen the Parasite of Mortrex? Maybe meet me in the middle at 70 and see if it's actually worth bringing. It is still a character, right? Maybe we need a Hexmark Destroyer level thing, Deep Strike. You go, but that's the Lictor. I'm like, well, no, it can't take enhancements that I might need deploy, like a Parasite of Mortrex can. And then I put another 30 points on something, and now I have Psychostatic Disruption, and it's actually something cool, like a Dark Strider, but for more points, like 100 points at that math, right? So, this is a long way to say that's all I'm trying to do is the point that John made is this: you can have things. You can have things, they can do things. They can have the same level of care as this. I don't necessarily want Necrons to stop having this level of care and attention, even if that is, hey, there's somebody on the team that really likes Necrons and is giving them all the bonuses for balance. No. I want more of that person on the team for all the factions. That way, I don't look at something like Imperial Agents and go, man, you just released a detachment that makes all the good units more expensive for kind of nothing. They still don't have an army rule. Just overall, there's no army rule. And there's no points drops here to kind of compensate for trying to play this cool, quirky little thing. Somebody get in there and love Imperial Agents. It shouldn't take a year to slap some keywords on the Silent King, the Trigon, the Norn Assimilator. Hell, looking at, let's see if I can pull it up here, if it's still on. Yeah, there we go. Drukari. Is it on? Will it show on this one? No, it's too old. I would have to pull up the other data sheet. But like the Void Raven Bomber didn't have fly at one point. Or was it the other flyer? I'm pretty sure it was the Void Raven Bomber. But like, shit like that. Like, how did that go to print? Ever? How did you ever put that? Or is this like you just missed the obvious fucking word on it? So I just want everybody to be cared for. That's all. And I just so happen to only know one faction the most. My second faction already seems to have that covered. All right, so that's where all of this comes from, and I just kind of want to put out this video of thankfully somebody else said it with a better platform than me and probably more gracefully than I, better word usage, can highlight what I mean by, you know, you found ways to make Necrons, go up and down and certain things. You didn't just make it all a flat increase, even though that's probably what the community would want right now. But where is that for every faction? Again, I don't give a shit if you put up the Exocrine to fucking 150 if I now have another viable option to get up the table. Maybe you give me a Tyrannocyte at 75, and now I don't have to worry a Tyrannocyte at 75 that can fit a squad of warriors with a Wing Tyranid Prime, and then maybe I don't care about the fact that my only gun is Blast at 36 inches. Maybe you buff the Zoes to 36 inches, and then I go, all right, 305 points for the unit. Fair enough. That trades off for the toughness issue that I had with them for 200 points. Things like that. And then you see how that goes. I'm looking at Raveners that we aren't taking. I'm looking at Screamer Killer that we aren't taking. And at the same time, I do have a lot of ideas for Assimilation Swarm now. Because somebody finally went, what if we remove the dumbass objective marker part and made it D3 plus 1? Do I think that this is probably the best detachment now for Tyranids? I'm thinking so. I think so. I think there's a lot more play than people initially will give it credit for. But I know some people that are believers in Assimilation Swarm. And even when I made my Assimilation Swarm video, again, it's just that it could be better. And guess what? Here we are that somebody made it better. I put out my idea how to make it better. People in the comments, and this was one of the few times I said it on Reddit. It's like no, you don't know what you're doing. It's already perfect. It's my baby, and I'm like, I know it can be good, but it can also still be better. And here we are, where it's now better, and we work from there. But yeah, I'm going in circles. I just want to say, I'm only, I'm also only a guy recording my thoughts and putting it to video versus like using Twitter or Reddit threads. Like this is my quote unquote social media, I guess. This is why I guess guys like podcasts. You just put it out there. Somebody agrees, you can let me know. And if you can disagree respectfully, without just saying some wild shit and not realizing that you just didn't have to say that, and everything will be fine, it's fine. But yeah, if you like the video, like it. Got a comment for me, comment. And until next time, peace out, my monstrosities.